Welcome to Living with Victory Ministries podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Teague's Grocery and Corner Cafe at 130 Soco Road in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. In a moment, we'll join Tony and Laureen Giorgio with today's message.
There's a promise coming down that dusty road, and from his holy hand, healing virtue flows. He's got the keys to what you need. Death and hell he will defeat. Oh, there's a promise coming down that dusty
road. Teague's Grocery and Cafe, serving Maggie Valley since 1965, with delivery now available through Grubhub. Teague's is Maggie Valley's only grocery store. They're located at 130 Soco Road near the eastern entrance of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the Blue Ridge Parkway. Drop in for breakfast or lunch at the Corner Cafe, featuring a variety of daily specials. Teague's Grocery and Cafe is open Sunday through Thursday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Friday and Saturday from 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Call 828-926-1147. Teague's Grocery and Cafe, sponsors of Living with Victory.
Welcome to Living with Victory, where life isn't about waiting for the storms to pass. Now it's about learning to have peace, joy, and victory in the midst of the storm, because Jesus is your umbrella. Welcome to another edition of Living with Victory. Laureen has the topic for the day and the scripture. Hi there, sweetie. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for joining us. We decided to do a program on love, but God's love. Relationships God's way. The main scripture, 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. Love endures long and is patient and kind. Never is envious nor boils over with jealousy, is not boastful or vainglorious, does not display itself haughtily. It is not conceited, arrogant, and inflated with pride. It is not rude, unmannerly, and does not act unbecomingly. Love, God's love in us, does not insist on its own rights or its own way, for it is not self-seeking. It is not touchy or fretful or resentful. It takes no account of the evil done to it. It pays no attention to a suffered wrong. It does not rejoice at injustice and unrighteousness, but rejoices when right and truth prevail. Love bears up under anything and everything that comes, is ever ready to believe the best of every person. Its hopes are fadeless under all circumstances, and it endures everything without weakening. Love never fails, never fades out or becomes obsolete or comes to an end. There are so many different types of relationships, but of course Valentine's Day, husband and wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, people that are engaged, and we make such a to-do about showing our love through gifts. For that one day, that's fine. What do you do the other days of the year? How do you handle that, especially when problems start to come in and hit? Where do you draw from to have that patience and the love and not get upset and argue and allow strife in the house? Even though it comes at times, how do you stop it?
How do you survive 51 years with me? There's a good question there. What happens when you're 30 years into that relationship now, you're married, kids are running all over the place, you aren't Mr. America anymore.
And neither is she Miss America.
Well, I don't want to say that. Neither is she Miss America. The person you married or you committed to in marriage is still the same person that you had on that first Valentine's Day. But things change. Life changes. And how do you look at that? Do you not worry about Valentine's Day anymore? Do we get complacent? Judging from the divorce rate in this country, I'd say, yeah, and that's among Christians, secular world, doesn't matter. That's not what God talked about,
Some days are Shangri-La, and some days the guns of Navarone. But that is life.
With time, we change, and life changes us. But we're the same two people who loved and adored each other when we first met. You also married a family. And sometimes that could be a very difficult situation. Now, you think I'm heading in the direction of saying, well, why do you think there's so many divorces? Well, no. You have to understand it's commitment. And commitment today is nothing. I don't get married, number one. I live together. That's just fine and dandy. Well, the Bible says, no, that's not fine and dandy, number one. And also the fact that, well, I can walk out the door. But you have to understand something. Life happens. And you've chosen this person to go through that life together, no matter what happens. It didn't say, we're going to go it together because we're cute, adorable, we love each other, and nothing's going to happen, and it's going to be Shangri-La. Jesus didn't promise us that to begin with. But working at the love is a different thing when you really are loving, and the biblical loving and not the physical loving. You understand that, we're two different people, and there's a give and take. And Lord knows she married the most different person on the face of the earth. What I'm trying to say is, don't take it so lightly that you can get into it and jump out of it. That hurts everybody. That hurts the two people who used to love each other, and now they think they don't anymore, and especially the children. What a mess. Oh, Lord. But working at each other and understanding each other is a work in progress. We've had more problems than you can shake a stick. What do you think we are, Mr. and Mrs. Goody Two-Shoes? No way. Laureen can tell you it has been a battle because, everything else jumps in the middle of that marriage, that love, that the bills have to be paid. Sometimes they can't be paid. Sickness comes up. You have to take care of people. The in-laws come over. Things like that happen.
I'm just looking at verse 5 here. It's saying, love is not conceited, arrogant, and inflated with pride. The minute you get into an argument, your pride kicks in. How dare you talk to me that way?
I'm right.
And it's saying it is not rude, unmannerly, and does not act unbecomingly.
Right.
And, when you have strangers, sometimes we treat strangers with more respect than we do our own family. And I think if we could apply what God is saying here, when you feel an argument coming on, and just to respect one another and sit down and kind of listen to what the other person's view is. And then maybe you could work it out a little bit before somebody goes stamping out of the house.
Keep the love light burning in your heart. Keep it burning in your heart. That person sitting across from you, that person who has his feet up on the couch and you don't want him up there reading the paper, this is the man or woman that you adored and you loved, and there was a reason. And it wasn't just physical that you got married. See, you wanted to spend your life together. Well, spending your life together does mean the kids come first, because now they can't fend for themselves, and we have to be there for them and teach them. That's number one, when the kids come in the picture. And number two, for each other. When we're sad and the other partner is not sad, and when we have jobs that take us away.
You have to realize that parents are very responsible for how we approach our problems, because that's how our children are going to learn how to approach our problems. And if we're not teaching them God's way, they will not know it. We have a very big responsibility to teach them when they're very young and willing to learn before they get into their teens. And so we have to stop and realize that we're not just here selfishly, just us. We have other people in the house that we have to concern ourselves with now.
There's a whole world out there for those kids who don't know anything about, and we do, and we have that responsibility. But between the two people in a commitment, I think what we're trying to say, we're not Mr. and Mrs. Perfect on the air. We are so the opposite, and that's why we are on the air. We've survived 51 years of marriage, not living together without the blessings of the Lord and the license. Let me take a second here before I continue. We want to remind you that you can contact us. Contact us, and we really would love to hear from you. Good or bad, doesn't matter. Email us if you want, livingwithvictory@gmail.com. That was livingwithvictory@gmail.com. Okay, so let's get back to the program. I think what I'm trying to say is that this 50 years wasn't all apple pie and roses and candy. And Laureen will agree. I was probably the most opposite of anything she'd ever experienced or her family ever experienced. I was a street kid in Brooklyn, New York. I was in the gangs. The whole ball of wax. And even though I grew up with the mind that there was a God, there was a Trinity, and I respected that. I did go to church, but I was a totally different person than this woman I have with me 51 years. And do you know the adjustments there? You don't grow up in the same environments. There's different upbringings. And in all the problems that we had, you have to realize it was no smooth sailing, and we loved each other and we were Christians. And between all the physical ailments, and families can do it to you too, in-laws, their interactions in the marriages and all. But you have to stand strong for each other. And that's the only thing that does it. And it's the love. You have to understand you have that love.
God's love is strong. It's not weak. It does bear up under everything that comes. It's ever ready to believe the best of every person. Its hopes are fadeless under all circumstances and endures everything without weakening. I know we make jokes about the in-laws and this and that, but that is a very vulnerable relationship. I can't say that I always got along with your mom, okay?
Well, Lord.
But I had to come to understand her.
Right.
Once I did, and I wasn't above saying I'm sorry if I felt I was wrong, we started to build a really good relationship over the years.
But it took years.
It took time.
Took years.
But it also took an effort. And if I was to walk away and say to Tony, I don't want to talk to your mother ever again, that would have been wrong.
What a mess.
And that would have not exhibited God's love at all.
Exactly. Yeah, and even between us, how many arguments, we still argue today.
Oh, wow, big deal. Of course we argue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That ended that. But we do. We fight like crazy sometimes. Understanding that you have to say you're sorry sometimes, whether you're wrong or right, okay? That's what patches things up.
It's hard sometimes to realize that you were actually the one that was wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe it was me, It's hard to say that. It's a humbling experience.
Understand when you get married, you're in it for life. If you don't get married, you're floating on the ocean and it'll take you wherever. But you got to do it together in order to make it to 50 years. And it takes work.
And commitment.
And we're not the same people we started with back in 1967. Young, wonderful, handsome, beautiful, the whole bit. She's still beautiful. But we have a lot of wear and tear over the years, especially what we did for 30 years with these children and all. And here's something else about love. We're going to give you an example of love. Let's take it out of the married realm.
Right.
Love and the children. I won't mention names, but this is a true story. We met a woman and we were helping her a great deal. Her son was in the wheelchair, and she gave her life up and her other son for this youngster. I mean, day and night. I mean, anything that was needed. She went to meetings. She fought for better health care. She just was everywhere. I couldn't understand it. It turns out this was the boy's grandmother, not his mother. Her daughter had the baby and left it literally on her doorstep, saying she couldn't handle it because the child was sick, walked away, just walked away, gave her some money, walked away. A year after grandma got the child, her husband died. Finances changed. Her and her son, not her grandson, but her son, her oldest son. He never married, but he and his mother took care of this boy as if it was a sibling and not the grandmother. And I know a lot of that goes on today, but this was a child left on a doorstep, and she gave up everything, her entire life, to take care of that young boy. And I remember doing so much with her and pleading her case for benefits because he was so disabled and he couldn't function. But she taught him so much, how to talk, how to speak, but she never worried about her own needs. She loved this child so much. And he did too, the son. This is what we're talking about, the love that Jesus is talking about. This was her grandson, a little baby put on her doorstep from her daughter. That's not commitment. That's not love. There's the difference. You have to be able to give all there is to give. Perfect love, perfect sacrifice. God gave his only begotten son because he loved us so much. His son, Jesus, died on that cross for us. That's the love we're talking about in marriage. 51 years. Wow, you made it. But it's the love of God that penetrates. That grandmother did everything for that child, and he was so much better off for it. Let me tell you what we saw in 30 years that just propelled us to do this. We had parents who had families with seriously ill children. Why spend money on them? The medical community back then, the whole thing. But these parents said, no, this is my child, this is my blood, and they fought for him. And I've seen people sell their furniture and eat on cardboard boxes and tables to go and make sure that the child has the treatment. And this is one reason why we do our gas card program. Understand where some of our outreaches are coming from. We try to help because we can't help advocate like we did. We don't have the staffing and all, but we buy for the working poor, they call them, because they work and they can't afford gas in the car to bring their kids to the treatments. And most kids have 85 to 90% chance of surviving these diseases. We give them the gas cards. We give the social worker the gas cards. At Arnold Palmer Hospital, the University of Pittsburgh, East Tennessee Children's Hospital, we do a Mission Hospital. We work with the social workers. They give them $25 gift cards to help them with their gas expenses. But they have the love and the compassion. And sometimes they're neglecting the treatments, to go to the treatments because they don't have the money to pay for food on the table, their other bills, plus. You see, and this is why we do this, because the love of the parent, they love those kids so much that they'll give up anything and everything. And we've seen it over 30 years.
We were up at Shands Hospital one time. We used to go up for Christmas and set up like a little store for them to pick their toys and wrap them. And there was a family up there that had been up there for about 4 months because their child needed treatments. If they had one meal a day, that was a lot. And It came time to go home finally. They didn't even have a car to go home because the car had broken down. And they had no way to get the car fixed or put gas in the car to go home. But yet, they were willing to go through these sacrificial times just to make sure that their child would live, even if it was a month more or 2 months. It's their child.
all it took was for our volunteers to dig into their pockets, whatever we had, and gathered up enough money, went to the gas station and the mechanic near the hospital and asked him to fix the car. Now, out of a whole staff in a hospital, you'd think they would think of doing something like that. We don't have that brotherly love. We think too much on what the rules are. But we fixed the car and they got home, and that's why we do the things we do.
John 13:34 says, I give you a new commandment, that you should love one another, just as I have loved you. So you too should love one another.
Exactly.
We should care about other people's problems, because that's where life really is, trying to help someone else.
Exactly.
And it blesses you more than it really is blessing that person by you helping. When you come together and you make it through the challenges, you get closer.
You do.
You get
certainly
closer.
do.
And you get to know each other more. And the challenges don't stop.
They just keep coming. Even while we're right on the air today, there are challenges.
Remember, love never fails. It never fades out or becomes obsolete or comes to an end.
If your life feels like pieces of a broken puzzle, walking through Living with Victory's website will guide you with hope and encouragement. Each page has information to put the broken pieces of life's puzzle back together again. You will find food for your soul, peace, and joy. Here you will find Jesus is the answer. You will learn who Jesus is and why he loves you so much to go to the cross for you. You will learn he wants to be your closest friend, walking and talking with you every moment of every day, and help you put the pieces of the broken puzzle back together to make you whole again. You can listen to our podcasts on your favorite platform, read Laureen's articles of hope and encouragement, purchase her book of God's promises for your life, contact us for prayer, or read about his love for you. Visit today at livingwithvictorync.org.